My name is Mukoso Eddie-Obiakor. I'm the marketing manager for East and West Africa at ACCA, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. Growing up, I wanted to be an actress, but my mom told me in her words that I would starve to death if I didn't do something professional. And that's when confusion set in, because I had no idea what else I would be if I wasn't an actress. I struggled to find what it was that I wanted to do, but I remember the words that my mother used, and she said, you have to do something professional. Doctor, lawyer, accountant, she said. But I knew I didn't want to be any of those things. My brother filled his JAMB form easily, got up from the table and walked away. 2 hours I was still staring at it, pouring through the brochure page by page, trying to find out what it was that I would end up feeling. And then I saw estate management, and I was like, okay, this sounded good. From then on, I asked questions about the course that I had chosen, estate management, and watched movies and saw glamorous looking women showing off homes to prospective buyers. And I was like, yeah, I can do this. I like their style, I like the way they talked, I like the way they did the presentations. And I felt like that was my calling. But results came out, and yes, I failed math. I didn't do so well, and so I couldn't get into estate management at the university that I'd chosen. But luckily for me, they had something called shopping, where you could go in for a course that didn't have enough students, but your results could basically get you in. And so I got into geography. So essentially, I spent 4 years in the university reading geography, which wasn't anything that I wanted to do. Growing up, people thought I was a very good orator. They thought, oh, you speak well, you acted well. People thought I sang well because I was in the school choir in primary school. So I knew that I just knew that I wanted to perform. Even in school, every other week I was in the dramatic arts department. They had a very impressive building. I would stay there and watch them do their rehearsals, pay for their plays, watch them with so much envy. I was like, I could do this. This should have been me, but alas, it was not meant. My first job out of NYSC was as a call center consultant at a telco, which basically meant speaking over the phone and solving queries. It was something to do, and it gave me the opportunity to use my oratory skills. I think that's why I got the job in the first place, to be honest. I did it for about a year. And then an opening came up for something called a coverage marketing position. At the time, the telco was launching new communities, and so they needed people to create the hype, basically get them more subscribers. And so I thought that that was a perfect opportunity, and that was my first foray into marketing. I worked in coverage marketing for about a year and then moved to something called trade marketing, which was basically the same thing. And then I moved to an ICT, to a VAS provider for about a year, where I worked in events and special projects. Now this is when I started to get the flair for marketing, because I found that I really liked doing events, the coordination, the project management, all the different elements that came into it. I found myself pulled out of my comfort zone because it was a tech company and I hadn't worked wholly in technology before then. Working in marketing in an ICT VAS provider gave me an opportunity to expand my horizons, and then also bring an element into, what I called a fun element into a serious space. After I left the ICT provider, I did a bit of consulting for myself because I thought that I'd learned enough to be able to add value to people without, being constrained in the 9 to 5. At the time, I had a few friends and people I knew who were starting up their own businesses, and I felt like I'd had enough experience to be able to assist them. Well, I was a little wrong, but I did learn some lessons from that. After the consulting, which was very short-lived, I might add, I moved on to a radio station where I worked as the assistant marketing and sales manager. Now, this was a different world for me because radio was something that I'd heard about but never really forayed into. So it was very interesting. The job entailed, working with both the internal teams, which were the on-air personalities, the sales teams, and then also liaising with external stakeholders like the media regulatory agency, the media buying agencies. I mean, it really opened my eyes into the world of media and media production. So it was it was an interesting journey, because being a pioneer staff of the company meant creating things from scratch. So the processes, the procedures, everything had to really just come from, the bottom to the top, and it was a very interesting journey. When I left radio, I worked in TV production. I worked on the set of Nigerian Idol for season 1 and 2. I worked as the event manager, and I did a bit of coordination for the live shows. Now that was what changed my perspective about marketing. So for me, at that point, I found that marketing wasn't really just about selling or presenting. It was really about developing and creating the tools or the content that you wanted to sell. So that was what really got me into content production, and that's really what sparked my interest and really got my creative juices flowing. I was a personal shopper for about a year, and then I went back to 9 to 5, and that was how I got into the education space. I interviewed for a company called Study Group, an international pathway provider. So basically it allowed for students in Nigeria who wanted to further their education abroad to go through the pathway provided by these some partner universities to be able to get placements in those universities. So that was a pioneer role as well, because they didn't have a marketing person anywhere in Nigeria. So I basically helped establish a storefront for the company and to be able to engage with these students. One day, while sitting down enjoying my job immensely, I got a LinkedIn message from someone who had viewed my profile and thought that I should interview for a job at ACCA, which I did. The first interview, which was like a discussion, went very well. And then I was invited back less than a week later to do like a formal interview, which I aced, and I was made an offer. So at this point I was in a bit of a dilemma, because here I was in the thick of developing something that was my baby, which I had, basically worked from the ground up to establish. And on the other hand, here was this huge opportunity with this international accounting body, which gave me like an even sort of better platform to expand my horizons. So it took a little bit of deciding, but then at the end of the day, I went with ACCA. My struggle was finding my place as a marketing person in a sales-oriented organization, in a place where the numbers were what mattered the most and the bottom line was always the numbers. Marketing seemed a little frivolous at the beginning. So I had to sort of fight to find my place and establish my value in that kind of environment. My lowest points in my career journey would possibly be the point where I realized that the Nigerian factor was a big problem in the way companies and organizations were run. Some of my most disheartening times as an employee were times when decisions were made purely from an emotional or a personal standpoint from the business owner, without really looking at the big picture of the organization's needs or even its audience. So I found myself feeling very dejected sometimes, and which has actually caused me to walk away from 2 jobs in my career journey, and ultimately made me decide that I would never work for a Nigerian-owned company again. I think the driving force behind what I do innately is me still trying to prove myself. To prove that even though I couldn't be what I wanted to be as a child, I could be whatever it was that I wanted to be. So most times when people ask me, what kind of marketer are you? I can't really say, because I can't put myself in a box. I think the best part of marketing for me is I can wake up today and wear a different hat than I wore yesterday. It gives me the latitude to be whoever I want to be, depending on what my area of focus is. I have experience in PR and media, events management, content production, lead generation, social media marketing, digital strategy. I mean, name it, I've done it. And most times I'm doing it just to tell myself that you can. And you don't have to be a traditional marketer, is the way I see it, because the world is evolving. Things are changing. If you don't evolve, you die. Decision habits that have made the most difference for me always, I think, are embedded in my work ethic. Basically, I think that in everything that people do, your personality always shines through. We always hear about the different personality types. I'm an INTJ, which is basically an architect. So basically, my personality type is always evolving, always growing, never really giving up or backing down. So I think that those decisions that are fueled by who I am innately are what have motivated me and pushed me forward. So I think the decision to wake up every day, do what I have to do, how I have to do it, is what keeps me moving. If I could start it all over again, I'd be braver. I'd say no, I'd dig my feet in and say, starvation or come what may, I'll do what I want to do. Who knows, I could have been the next Genevieve. 9 to 5 or entrepreneurship? I think that's the biggest question on the lips of most young Nigerians and millennials today. Everyone is pushing that hustle until your name is on the Forbes list. If you sleep more than 6 hours a day, you are not going anywhere. And I think that that's one of the biggest fallacies that's being pushed on social media. Everyone is not meant to be an entrepreneur. I believe that God opens heaven and pours down ideas, and some people pick them and run with them. But I don't think that everyone who has the ability to pick the ideas has the ability to run with it. If everyone is an entrepreneur, who's going to work for the companies? Who's going to build the machinery and infrastructure that we need to move this country and economy forward? Don't get me wrong, I'm a very big advocate for SMEs. In fact, that was the driving force behind my consultancy, because I wanted to provide value, marketing services to businesses that were growing and wanted to put themselves on the map. However, I believe that organizations have the structure and the processes and the ability for longevity and sustainability on a very large scale. There are large corporations that are doing big things. Then be like me, who wants to be a small part of a big thing. But if you feel like you want to be a big part of a small thing, then entrepreneurship. So I think to answer this question, I'd rather do a 9 to 5, but with the caveat that I still have the ability to be an entrepreneur on the side. Why be one big cake when you can be a box of cupcakes with different flavors for different days?